Hey, what's up guys, TotallyDubbed here, and today I'm doing a video review on the Logitech G513. Now these are a set of RGB mechanical keyboards. Now in case you're wondering why I've got two in front of me, that's because Logitech have just recently announced their Roma G linear switch. Now the linear switch is the one on the left, and then their tactile switch, which is the older Roma G switch, is on the right. So I've got both variants of the new keyboard. Now you might be wondering, why is it special? Well, first of all, it is £160. Why is that special? Is because it competes with the very top end of the market when it comes to gaming keyboards that you can buy. This pretty much puts it in line with the Corsair K70 RGB and the HyperX Alloy Elite RGB, which I just previously reviewed just not too long ago. Now, the reason why I'm mentioning those two keyboards is because one, they use RGB lighting, two, they also have a similar sort of design in terms of the metal build quality or the wrist rest that's included, and three, there are Cherry MX switches rather than the Logitech Roma G switches that we have in front of us. So now let's talk about the build quality. So, given the fact that it has a full metal build, there's no surprise that there's zero keyboard flex with the keyboard. The keyboard is really built to last, and if you took it to a zombie apocalypse, then you'd have absolutely no problem bashing some heads. Now, underneath the keyboard, you've got a keyboard riser over here, a plastic little riser, and then you've got a little line over here which is useful for your microphone, and then you've got some rubber bits in order to prevent it from sliding around. The keyboard has a USB. It's terminated by two USBs coming from a braided keyboard. The reason I say it's got two is because one of them is used for the pass-through, which is found over here, which is useful for, I don't know, your flash drive or your mouse or whatever it might be. And the second one is to power the keyboard with its RGB lighting. So just bear that in mind in case you're wondering why you've got two keys. Now, within the box, Logitech provide a few things. First of all, they provide a key puller, which is always useful to have. Then they provide a wrist rest. So obviously I've got one of them out, but the wrist rest over here is nice and soft. It's got a memory foam. It feels like you can sleep on it really nicely. It's a really good build quality, and I have absolutely no complaints about it. The only thing I should mention is that it doesn't attach to the keyboard in any way. It's got no magnetic strip, which is a little bit of a shame, but that said, it can be seen as an advantage in case you want to have some weird style configurations, then you can do so, or if you're on a bed of some sort, you can have that in terms of that. So it's nice that it's provided, and the fact that the feel of it is quite nice, and the fact that you don't actually have to use it if you don't want to is another plus sign. Finally, you've also got a set of keys. Now the reason I say keys is because there's a few keys which are slightly different. Now if I just take out the W and the E keys over here, just to show you a bit of a difference. Now hopefully my camera will focus in time, but on the left hand side we've got the W key, which has a slight groove on it. Now the little groove, which hopefully the camera will focus on, but the little groove makes it a little bit different in order to press on, whilst the E key is using a normal sort of key, and therefore feels just normal. Now the reason I'm mentioning this is, one, because Logitech include it, and two, because if you want to be gaming on it, I think you'll find it a lot more comfortable to be gaming on the one which is has a slight kind of a groove to it. Now obviously my camera didn't focus, which is great, but nevertheless hopefully you got this sort of like a indication of how it looks like. You can probably just see it in the background, and how it is ribbed versus the non-ribbed version. Nevertheless, Logitech provide a set of keys, not a full set of keys, I should mention. I think there's WASD keys and the 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 I think keys, which are also included in the box. So just bear that in mind, that you're not going to get the full set of keys. Now let's move on to the other functions of the keyboard, and here I'm just going to bring you just a little closer to one of the keyboards so you can see it. Now on the F keys, you'll be able to see that there is a few, not dedicated, but a few keys that can be used with the FN key. Now via the FN key you can access a full set of media controls, which go from F9 all the way down to pause. If I just bring the keyboard here, you'll be able to see them. And then you've also got some lighting keys from F5 to F8, which are always also useful in order if you want to disable the illumination, or also disable the Windows key, which is the Logitech G key over here. Again, you'll have to activate it by pressing FN and then pressing that, and then you'll enable it. Now that function is quite nice to see, and also the fact that you can program your colors or your color profiles and whatnot to the keyboard, and then have them always saved, so you can flick through color profiles directly from the keyboard without having software, is a definite plus sign. Speaking about the software, I should say the software is really comprehensive. You can do a lot of things through it, and I'm a big fan of Logitech's gaming software suite. You can customize macros. Every single key can be customized, and obviously the F keys will be your main ones that you'd want to like customize, because those are not the ones that you'll be using on a daily basis. In terms of lighting wise, now the Logitech, this new Logitech keyboard comes with light sync technology. Now light sync technology is a nice sort of technology that enables you to view what your game is seeing. Now this isn't applicable with all types of games. There's certain games like Dota 2 and Counter-Strike which work, whereas and Fortnite I think work as well, but games like Battlefield 3, for example, an old title, won't work with light sync technology. Now, the light sync technology didn't really work for me on my PC. I think this is some sort of problem for some reason. Nevertheless, when Logitech demonstrated it to me on their PC, it worked flawlessly. Obviously it would, but nevertheless, it's just something I should mention as a feature that it has. It's not something that would actively get me to buy it. The reason why is because I'm not concentrated on what's going on the keyboard, I'm concentrated on what's going on the monitor. But the fact there's an added function, something like what I've mentioned previously with SteelSeries' GameSense, same sort of feature over here. It's a nice sort of additional extra to have, a nice little visual to have. If not, through the software you can customize it however you want. Every key can be individually customized, and you can change it between different sort of effects. So you can see over here I've got a star effect playing. Now I've got a individual key being illuminated. Every single key can be customized. So overall, the software is fantastic and flawless in terms of providing what you need it to do. Now finally, let's go into the performance. Now how do the switches do? So what I'm going to do is just go quiet for a little while and just let you hear the differences between the two switches. I'm just going to type on the first one. Is going to be the tactile one, which is the older one, and then I'm going to be talking on testing out the linear one, which is the newer Aroma G switch. So let's go. So you were probably able to hear right there that the keys really sound very similar to each other. However, there's one thing that you will notice, well, you won't notice, but something I should mention, is that the keys definitely do feel a little bit different. The linear switch, as you would expect, has a linear actuation. It feels a little bit heavier, even though it's the same sort of actuation, the same exact actuation force as the tactile switch, but it has a sort of linear a switch, whereas the tactile one has a slight bump, as you'd expect from a tactile switch, and therefore feels a bit different. If you're someone who likes gaming, I'd probably aim to go towards the linear switches rather than the tactile switches, because it just feels a little bit smoother, albeit a little bit harder to press initially. Now, one thing I do want to mention, however, is the way that the switches respond versus Cherry MX switches. Now, it is Logitech have kind of marketed as the Logitech the Logitech switches are 25% faster. That's because of the way that they actuate versus a Cherry MX switch. However, taking it as a whole in terms of the keyboard itself, the keys had a slight weird bounce back, spring back sound. I'm just going to go quiet and hopefully you guys will be able to hear this. I'm not sure you're able to hear that, but there's basically like a springy sound that occurs. Now this springy sound is really obnoxious and something I didn't really like. Not only in terms of the feel of it, but also in terms of how it sounded, especially when I was typing quite hard, I could hear it. Again, the camera might not pick it up properly, but when you're in person, you'll definitely notice it. So versus a normal Cherry MX switch, for example the Cherry MX Brown, which is with the tactile one, and a Cherry MX Red, which is with the linear one, I'd much prefer a Cherry MX switch. Which pretty much leads me on to my conclusion. If you're looking for a keyboard and you've got around 170 odd pounds to spend, I'd much rather choose the Corsair K70 or the HyperX Alloy Elite RGB, mainly because of its switches. Also, in terms of build quality and the features that you've got the same sort of features which are included in the other keyboards that I've just mentioned. So I don't really quite understand why someone would pay £170 for the G513 other than RGB lighting and for it to synchronize with your Logitech software or your Logitech gaming peripherals. That's just my personal opinion, and that's pretty much my conclusion. Yes, it's a good keyboard, yes it does all the right things, but it doesn't feel as good as a Cherry MX switch, which means that I would much prefer choosing the Cherry MX variant of these keyboards, which is from HyperX or Corsair. So there we go guys, hopefully you enjoyed this review. Make sure you give it a like, comment, subscribe if you have. Comment to let me know your thoughts, and check in the link in the description below for any buy links. Alright guys, Totally Dubbed out. Bye bye.